What's going on, guys? Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Nescat Knows show. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. Whether you are watching on YouTube, scrolling on TikTok, or listening on Spotify, your support does not go unnoticed. I do ask that if you are enjoying the show on Spotify, that you leave a rating to boost our discoverability, whatever the hell that means. And if you are watching on YouTube, that you leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more amazing podcasts and videos in the future. In this episode, we are covering Formula One's return this weekend, the Six Nations Rugby Tournament, and we get an update on Louis Rees-Zammett's situation in the NFL, plus loads more segments. Welcome to the rodeo. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is that time of the week again. We are back. The Nescat Knows show is back in your life. This is episode 3, obviously. And, this is a bit of a different episode from last week's one because last week was very focused on UFC, football, and NBA. But this week, we are focusing on, obviously you heard in the intro, but it's a focus on Formula One, the NBA again, but in a different way. And we're going to be talking about rugby today because, we might as well start on the rugby side of things. The Six Nations is currently happening. The Six Nations is we're going into week 4 of 5, so there are 2 match weeks left before the end of the tournament. And mate, it happened again. Ireland are running away with it. Let's be real. They are. Ireland going into the Six Nations were the favourites to win back-to-back Six Nations tournaments. And it looks like they're going to do that. They sit on 15 points at the moment. I couldn't even tell you who's in second. Scotland and England, I think, are tied on 9 points. And then France, Wales, and Italy make up the back end. But, watching them against Wales on the weekend, it was just pure domination. And, I was watching it with my dad actually, and, he said that the scoreline didn't depict the game, didn't represent the game because he thought it was close. But, when I was watching it, I just thought Ireland's defense was just ridiculous. The amount of, and then, so that was one thing. But then on the other side of it, on their offense, the amount of phases they had and just continued to go and go and go and go. It was something to watch. And, like I said already, it was pure domination from the Irish rugby team. And like I said, they now sit 6 points ahead going into the last 2 games. And I can't see anyone beating them. They play England this weekend. That's a huge game. Ireland versus England is always something. And then they play Scotland in week 5. Those are my 2 countries. You can see the flags behind me. That's always a good game for me to watch. But the point being, Ireland have run away with the Six Nations in 2024. Sort of like they did, and it wasn't as much of a runaway last year, but, that's why it's so surprising to see how poor they perform. And, I'm not going to say poor, because in the group stage they were dominant, but in the Rugby World Cup, against New Zealand, look, I get it, they don't play them in the Six Nations, but they just lost to New Zealand, and they had that curse on them, whatever, that they can't get past the quarterfinals. but it doesn't make sense that they can't show up in the World Cup. I do think that the next World Cup they're going to be back and better. I mean, mate, looking at that team play on the weekend was ridiculous. They were just a powerhouse, and Wales couldn't stop him. Wales played well. That's the thing. Wales played well. And I'm not for one saying that Wales were poor and they just ran. Wales played well, and that's why it's almost scary, you know, for teams like the Springboks and Scotland and England and France that come up against Ireland, and it's scary. Like, I mean, Ireland have their tour of South Africa in July. That is going to be one of the greatest test match series that we've seen in a while, I'm telling you. So Ireland in South Africa. Ireland versus South Africa in South Africa. It's going to be great. But yeah, I mean, they play England this weekend, and I mean, my prediction for that is Ireland to win by 10, 15 points. I'm going to say 15. I'm actually going to go bold and say 15 points because they've just been a pure dominant force during this 2024 Six Nations. But that's going to be my prediction for that game. Ireland to beat England by 15. And we might as well do the other predictions, shouldn't we? France play Wales. Am I right? Yes, France play Wales. They are likely to win that, I think. I'm going to say France by 10. And then Scotland versus Italy. And, I mean, that's going to be a bit of a walkover for Scotland, I imagine. So, yeah, Scotland by 20 at least. I mean, Duhan van der Merwe scored a hat-trick on the weekend against England. And it was so funny. You guys might have not seen, but in the news this week, so Duhan van der Merwe is South African, but he is eligible to play for Scotland, so he plays for Scotland. He is a winger, and he is quite large, and he is quite quick. He is a beast. He is a tank. And he scored three tries against England, by the way, at Murrayfield. And the I can just imagine the buzz at Murrayfield would have been crazy. He scored a hat-trick, and now the English media are questioning his eligibility to play for Scotland, which I find hilarious because they haven't, like, people have questioned it before, but they haven't said anything this Six Nations about him, even though he's been playing, you know, pretty well. And now the English media are saying, oh, well, why is he playing for Scotland if he's South African? Like, it's so funny to see, you know, the fact that they lose a game and then they have to question the guy's eligibility just because he scored a hat-trick against them. You know, like, you can say that for a lot of players about them being eligible. You know, you don't have to... yeah. I don't know. I just think it's quite petty, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. So, yeah, that was quite a performance. He scored 3 tries against England. A very good performance from Duhan van der Merwe. There was something else I wanted to talk about with the... Okay, so yeah, let's just wrap up the Six Nations. So I think it's fair to say Ireland are runaway winners of this tournament. You know, they have a 6-point lead with 2 games to go. They're not likely to throw that away. So they will be back-to-back champions. First time in a while. But, yeah, Ireland, winners of the Six Nations. Not yet, but most likely. And just on Wales, we can just talk a little bit about an update on Louis Rees-Zammit. So if you don't know who Louis Rees-Zammit is or what's happened with Louis Rees-Zammit, he has quit rugby. Done. He's finished with the rugby. He played for Wales. He was on the wing, a lightning fast a winger for Wales. He played for Gloucester as well. And funny enough, I was at Murrayfield the night he played his last game for Gloucester. I didn't watch the game, but I was there at Murrayfield that day. And he scored a breakaway try, I remember. And then the next day, he announces that he is joining the NFL's International Player Pathway Program. I think I'm getting that right. Where he has quit rugby, he's done with rugby. He's played for his national team. He's played a Rugby World Cup. He's done everything. He thinks he's done everything that he has to do in rugby, and he is now pursuing a career in American football. I am a big fan of American football, and I watch the NFL religiously. And as much as I am, this has always been a curious topic in sports. Can rugby players play in the NFL, and can NFL players play rugby? And, as a guy who watches a lot of sports constantly on a daily basis, American football and rugby are very different sports. The only similar thing, in my opinion, is that it's a full contact, rough contact sport. That's the only thing. And specifically with Louis Rees-Zammit, he is listed as a potential wide receiver and running back. For those rugby fans who don't know what that is, a wide receiver is an offensive player and is usually a quick and usually small, apart from guys like DK Metcalf and Julio Jones, and guys that are bigger but still quick. But they are small, agile, very fast players who run routes. They start on the outside of your offensive line, and they run routes. And their job is to catch the ball that is thrown from a quarterback. Okay? But then his other position that he's listed as is a potential running back. Now, a running back is... how I explain? Okay, so a running back is like a wide receiver that doesn't start on the outside, but rather starts on the inside with the quarterback and also runs a route, usually running straight through the offensive line and the line of scrimmage. Now, if you want to find out more about these positions, if you want to look at a wide receiver, the best wide receiver in the NFL right now, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, guys like that, CeeDee Lamb, look at how they play, especially Tyreek Hill, because he is small and he's the quickest guy in the NFL. But then a running back, look at guys like Christian McCaffrey and Nick Chubb and guys like that, and Isaiah Pacheco. Look at them and just look at the movements that they do. It's very agile. It's very, very quick and very stop, start, like most American sports. If you look at the way a rugby winger plays, like Louis Rees-Zammit did in the NFL, his job, and I'm not hating on rugby for a second, okay? These are athletes, proper athletes. If you look at how a rugby winger especially plays, he is instructed to run with the back line, stay on the edge, run with the back line, and he just receives a pass in front of him normally. And he knows where that pass is coming from. He's not expected to run dozens of routes and know dozens of routes all around the field whilst being marked by a cornerback, okay, or a safety. In the NFL, you can be marked off the ball by a cornerback and a safety. They can't tackle you, they can't hold on to you, but they can interrupt your passage of play, if you understand what I'm trying to say. In rugby, if someone is tackling you or interfering with you before you receive the ball, that is obstruction. That isn't allowed. You can't do that. So in rugby, someone like Louis Rees-Zammit is expecting the ball. He knows where it's coming from, and he has no one in his way unless, there's an interception, which is very rare from the defending team. So making the change, everyone thinks it's so simple. He's going to make it straight away in the NFL. He's got a lot of work to do. And, it's not as simple as, he has to run a route and then catch the ball. No. He has to know all the cadences, all the play calls, all the routes, and look at an NFL playbook. Do some research and look at an NFL playbook for an average NFL game. Not a playoff game, not a Super Bowl, just an average game. These guys are speaking a different language and then saying the cadence and then running the route. If you're in the wrong position, you mess up the play for the whole team. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Yes, there's other options. There's another wide receiver. There's two tight end. There's a running back. You have people to throw to. But if you want to do well, you need the ball in your hands, if you understand what I'm saying. And to get past, you can get double teamed by cornerbacks. You can get marked by a safety, a deep safety. It's not as simple as people think. And that's what everyone, or the rugby fans, are being a bit naive in the fact that, oh yeah, he'll make it straight away. You need to remember, 97% of the NFL is Americans, American-born players. They've been born in America, grew up in America, played American football all their lives, okay? And they've been bred in the sport. They've been bred in agility and speed and having to remember, I'm talking about wide receivers specifically, agility, speed, remembering routes. Leary Zammit, yes, he's lightning quick and he can sidestep and he's lightning quick and he's this, he's that. But he's tall and he's lanky and it's all about your hands. You can't not have hands as a wide receiver. You have to be able to catch. You see catches like Justin Jefferson 2 years ago or Odell Beckham in 2013. These guys are making one-handed catches, sometimes with just two fingers, catching the ball like that, behind their head. In rugby, it's there. It's at your chest. You catch it at your chest and you go on your way. And you have nothing to think about but just trying to get over the line. There's a lot of things going through NFL players' heads whilst having to play a very physical game. And in rugby as well, there are a lot of rules on the way people can tackle. In the NFL, it's a lot more lenient, so to speak, but without it being too dangerous. You can just push people out. You can just shoulder barge people. You can pull people. You can do a lot more. So it's a lot that he's going to have to deal with. And again, I wish this guy the very best. I really do. Because you know how cool it would be to have, he would be a pioneer in this transition from rugby to NFL and vice versa. So much so that I would like to see, and I'd definitely sign up for this, if Netflix or Amazon Prime or someone got together a documentary team and followed Leary Zammit on this journey, if they aren't doing it already, I think that would be so cool, because and they should release it whether or not he makes it into the NFL. Do you see what I'm saying? Just to show that it's a lesson, okay? To show future rugby players that it might be a bit tough to transition to the NFL, or future NFL players that might be tough to transition into rugby. And look, let's be real. There's a lot more money in the NFL than in rugby. That's an obvious point. He's going there for a childhood dream, but also because the NFL has very large contracts and has a lot of money within the sport. Okay? Some of the richest people in America and around the world are NFL owners. The Dallas Cowboys is a $5 billion plus organization. Okay? They are up there with teams like Real Madrid and Manchester United and Manchester City and teams like that are worth ridiculous amounts. There aren't many rugby teams, if not any rugby teams, worth that amount of money in the top 100 clubs in any sports in the world. So it's going to be a common theme. If he is to make it to the NFL, and I wish him all the best, you are going to see a lot of rugby players transitioning to the NFL, because it's a similar sport. I did say it's very different, but it's a similar sport in the sense that it's full contact and you're earning a lot more money. But there are a lot of laws with the NFL and how you can qualify to play in the NFL. He's joined a special pathway program, okay, where only, I might be wrong, but I think it's 20 or 30 international players from Nigeria, Australia, England, Wales, you name it, are invited to have a 10-week program to then hopefully get a chance at earning a contract for that next season with an NFL team. Okay? And going back to this position, okay, story that Louis Rees-Zammit is down as, in the majority of articles and on the NFL website, he's down as a wide receiver or a running back, okay? I can tell you right now on the 27th of February, 2024, Louis Rees-Zammit will not play as a wide receiver or a running back, especially not a running back in the NFL. There is one position that I think Louis Rees-Zammit could play in the NFL and actually has a very good chance of being pretty good at this position. And that's a return specialist. A return specialist is part of the special teams unit. In the NFL or in American football, you have an offensive team, a defensive team, and a special teams unit. A return specialist is part of the special teams, such as the kicker and the punter and guys like that, who in a return specialist's role is responsible in returning a punt or a kick. So let me explain. If you have just kicked off the game, okay, let's say the Chiefs are playing the 49ers in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs kick towards the 49ers. A 49ers return specialist is, and there's usually two, is responsible of catching that ball and just taking it as far as they can. There's been a lot of instances where they catch that ball and they run it all the way back for a touchdown, straight away, like that. If you get your fourth down and you're not in field goal range, you can punt the ball. If the Chiefs punt the ball, a 49ers return specialist can catch that ball and run it back and see how much ground they can gain. That's a better position for him because he's running a long distance, okay, usually, and not having to be as agile because you can go round the center of the field. You can go round through the touchline, and you have blockers. In that sense, you have guys that are blocking the other team from getting to you. Do you understand? That would make his life a lot easier. And if you're a return specialist, you are less likely to receive any contact as well. Which means it's a much easier job than a wide receiver, okay? A wide receiver has also got a huge responsibility of having to make very different catches in very different situations at a very rapid rate like that. And you have to be facing every angle at the same time almost, you know? You have to know if someone's coming at you from the front, from the side. Is the ball coming over your head? Are you catching it short? Things like that. A return specialist, they punt the ball and you catch it and you run. That's it. So that's the most likely position, in my opinion, that he would play. And again, I wish this guy the very best because he's a very talented rugby player. It was a pity that he went, but he could be a pioneer in this whole transition from rugby to the NFL and vice versa. But like I said, I'd really like to see a documentary series. Like I said, whether it works out or not, on Louis Rees-Zammit's trip to potential NFL contracts. It's all down to how this pathway program goes, and they're in week 6 of it at the moment, if I'm not wrong. Week 6 of 10. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be difficult. Okay, it's going to be very difficult because, like I said, 97% of the NFL is American and American born. He is Welsh. He comes from rugby. Okay, he's never played American football in his life. Okay, professionally, he could have thrown around, in the garden with his siblings or his dad or his mates, but he's never played it at a high elite level. He's essentially starting from scratch, which makes him a very huge exception. But who am I to judge? I do wish him the best. It's just going to be tough, but again, I do wish him the best. But that's enough rugby from now on. That's enough rugby for now. Sorry, long day. But I just wanted to do. There's no top 10 segment today. Actually, yeah, I guess it is. It is a top 10 segment. This is a very random segment. But I was scrolling through TikTok this morning, and I saw a video from a TikTok editor. Okay, and if you don't know what a TikTok editor is, they are like these guys who make videos, or girls who make videos, and it's like a short compilation with music over it. Okay, a compilation of an athlete or an artist or anyone, doesn't matter, a movie. And I'm quite fond of these sports TikTok editors, and I thought I'd compile a top 5 in no particular order, because I think these 5 are all great. I actually don't care. You could think this is a corny segment, but I think these guys are so talented, and girls. I don't know whether they're girls or guys, but whatever. I just think they're very talented, in these videos that they make. So I think it's fair to give them their props and shout them out a bit. So the 5 I've got are Tyler MMA, MMA Lab, Neon BB, but it's spelled N3ONBB, Le Casual Editor, LECASUALEDITOR, and Scotty Barnes is my hero. Those 5, I watch their videos every day. Look, I'm a TikToker, okay? I'm not a TikToker. I make videos on TikTok. I'm on TikTok a lot, okay? Which is warranted. But watching these guys' videos, it like makes you feel like yeah, those are cool, these guys are making dope videos, and they're very good at it. So, yeah, it was literally that. It was a quick segment. Tyler MMA, okay? He's mixed martial arts UFC editor, very good. MMA Labs, exact same thing. I think those 2 are very good. Neon BB, he's more of a compilation sort of editor. Makes compilation just with music in the background, but it's cool, man. It's like a cool vibe. Le Casual Editor, pretty much the same thing as Neon, and Scotty Barnes is my hero. So, yeah, shout out to those guys, man. This will probably be a TikTok, so if you see this, but I think you guys are talented, and it's not just them. It's all these editors on TikTok, whether it's sports editors or not, movie editors, doesn't matter. They're talented, and I watch TikTok more than I'm watching TV shows. So watching these guys' videos, it's pretty cool and it's entertaining. So shout out to those guys. That's just the quick top 5 segment today. It's weird. I've called this segment top 10, but both of them have been top 5 so far. Top 10s are coming. It's just the top 5. I literally put the top 5 in the script at the end, which means I have not a lot of time to think about it. But yeah, man, shout out to those guys. You guys are talented, and keep putting out these videos because they really are lit. But aside from that, those guys mainly, whether it's NBA, UFC, doesn't matter, football. I got some inspiration from a video I saw, and it was an edit of Greg Oden. Okay, if you don't know who Greg Oden is, I'm going to explain who he is now. But long story short, Greg Oden is known as probably one of the biggest what ifs in NBA history. Okay? Meaning he was the first overall draft pick in the 2007 NBA draft, above Kevin Durant, who's one of the greatest, NBA players ever. he got a very bad knee injury. If I'm not wrong, it was his ACL, but no, it wasn't. It was a microfracture and something. But he got a very bad knee injury. It's a very hard video to watch, his knee injury. But he was meant to be the next big thing, and he ended up retiring. I think it was 2014 or somewhere around there, after just years of injuries. And now he is working at Ohio State University at their basketball program. But I wanted to compile a top, well, not a top, a starting five of the biggest what if they never got injured players, if you understand what I'm saying. So 5 players in each position that would have been superstars had they not gotten injured. Okay. And starting off, I mean, we might as well start off, at the guards. So at the point guard, I have Derrick Rose. That was obvious. Okay. Derrick Rose was a Chicago Bulls player who was the youngest NBA, who is still the youngest ever NBA MVP, most valuable player in history. He won the MVP in was it his second or third year? I can't remember. Either his second or third year in the NBA. And then it was 2011. I think 2011 or 2012. Either 2011 or 2012, where he got quite a bad injury on his ACL, and he didn't really play real basketball again until the end of 2013. But he wasn't really the same. Okay, he wasn't really the same player that he was before he got injured. So much so that he got injured again later on, and then came back, when he was at the Timberwolves. But if you know the hype around Derrick Rose in 2011, how good the guy was, you'd know how much of a what if he is with his injury, okay? And the fact that he won the MVP at 22, okay, that's still the youngest MVP, 22 years of age. You get drafted at 18, 19. It's quite something, and he had so much potential still to go. You winning the MVP in your second or third year, you have a lot to grow into. And he unfortunately never reached that potential due to his ACL injury. So I think it's fitting that Derrick Rose gets his respect, but he is in this team, the biggest what-ifs in NBA history. But speaking of, at shooting guard, I have one of my favorite players of all time, Tracy McGrady. Tracy McGrady, in my opinion, could have been one of the greatest scorers. You talk about guys like Kevin Durant as some of the greatest scorers, Carmelo Anthony, in NBA history. Tracy McGrady was up there. He was drafted. No, he went to the Magic in 2000. After Penny Hardaway left, he was honorable mention for this list, Penny Hardaway. And they had this big idea, the Magic, to propel their franchise to be a championship contender. They genuinely were. They had Grant Hill and Tracy McGrady. Those were the two that they had, and they had them lined up, and everything was going well. They were both all-stars, and then Tracy McGrady had a microfracture in his knee as well. And it was the worst because there was so much hype, and it was in his 11th season, okay, where he had been a tank in the NFL, in the NBA, the whole time. And at the time was one of the best players in the league, whether it was his time at the Raptors or, when he was at the Magic, it doesn't matter. he had become a shell of himself when he returned. He really was. Um, he, in fact, I think I might be wrong in saying it, but I don't think he played over 30 games in the next 3 seasons. An NBA regular season is 82 games. He didn't play 30 games. And from then on, we just didn't see the same Tracy McGrady. So I think it's fair to have him at the 2 spot, at the shooting guard. And speaking of Grant Hill, who was paired up with Tracy McGrady, he is also on this list at small forward. This in the same year that Tracy McGrady went to the Magic in 2000, Grant Hill was traded to the Magic in that same year. And mate, these two were set to be a powerhouse. You know, they were going to be like a legendary duo, like Kobe Shaq, like D Wade LeBron, you know, like Jordan and Pippen, okay, like genuinely legendary. And both of them, I'm not even over exaggerating, both of them could score 30 on any given night. Just put them on the courts and they'll score 30. But the problem is that Grant Hill was never healthy, ever. He was always injured, okay? He was almost like Kawhi, like legendary, but just always injured, okay? In Grant Hill's first 4 seasons at the Magic, he played less than 50 games. Remember what I said? An NBA regular season is 82 games. In 4 seasons, he played less than 50 games, okay? So out of, call it 330 games, okay? Out of 330 games, he played less than 50. That's the level of injuries that he had. But while he was injured, so one half of the duo, Tracy McGrady, was averaging, it was like 32 points per game, okay? And that was in 2002, 2003. So much so that Grant Hill just never was himself again. He was just overshadowed by Tracy McGrady and never was able to perform again after he came back from all the injuries. And it was constant. He'd come back and get injured again. He'd come back and get injured again. So much so, yeah, he retired in 2013, and it was just sad to see. You know, it was something. You know, Grant Hill literally has been known to say that when T-Mac got to the Magic, he didn't know how good he was, and when he was injured and watching all these games, he realized how legendary this duo could have been. So it's just sad to see someone so talented, you know, not live up to their potential. And speaking of, at the power forward, I've got the still legendary, and I'm pretty sure Hall of Famer Bill Walton. So Bill Walton was center for the Celtics, or a power forward for the Celtics, like in the 80s and 90s. Oh no, 70s and 80s. But you know, at the time, you know, Bill Walton was the big man, like the rebounder, the force, you know, and he had a deadly, he almost had a hook shot like Kareem, deadly. And, you know, one of the greatest NCAA college basketball players in history, you know, he had 2 consecutive NCAA championships. The guy was that guy, you know. He won, if I'm not wrong, 2 MVPs and 2 championships, okay? And he got best 6th man of the year either once or twice, but I think it was once, okay? I think I said I thought he was a Hall of Famer. He is a Hall of Famer. He was 1993 or 94 Hall of Famer. But it was just short-lived, you know, like he could have been so much more. That's why he's a what if. He could have been so much more because he missed so many games. It's reported, okay, no one knows if it's true, that Bill Walton had 38 orthopedic surgeries over his career, okay? And that was 14 years. 14 years in the NBA. he missed 680 games and only played 488. Okay, so that's a 1.5 to 1 games missed, games played ratio. That's ridiculous. That's unheard of. And he still managed to get 2 championships, 2 MVPs, 6th Man of the Year, and is still in the Hall of Fame in 14 years. So to think what he could have been is quite something. But unfortunately, the injuries eventually just sidelined him for good. Like, he was just never himself. And speaking of never being himself, the center for this team is Greg Oden. And, you know, Greg Oden's like sad, man. Like, it's sad to see videos of him now. You know, there's that video of him where someone goes up to him and says, "Are you a basketball player?" And he's like, I used to be. And he like walks off with a sad face, you know. Greg Oden was the number 1 draft pick. Number 1. That means he's the best in his draft class, hypothetically, okay? Usually the top 3 are arguably the best. He was drafted ahead of Kevin Durant, drafted to the Portland Trail Blazers. And straight away, okay, he didn't even get off his feet and he already had injuries. He missed the whole 2007-2008 season. His whole rookie season he didn't play. His knees just didn't hold up, okay? He played only, again, like I said, 82 games in a regular season. He played only 105 games in the NBA ever in his whole career, okay? So it's quite something to think about if he had an actual career, what he could have done. Because he was so dominant. He was compared to guys like Shaq. I'm not even joking. Early in his career, he was compared to Shaquille O'Neal. Greg Oden was. And now he's sitting retired, you know, from NBA, coaching Ohio State. You know, like, this guy could have been legendary. But, I mean, yeah, it's like sad to think about, mate, because how good this guy was and how, like, he was a good guy as well, you can see. But he just never even made an All-Star, never made All-NBA, even though he would have walked into it if he was healthy. And I mean, the video of him getting his actual knee injury, that bad video where you see him land on his 2 feet and go down and he's screaming. It's not cool, man. But he finishes out this team. And, you know, it's sad to, you know, I didn't want to bring a sad vibe to this episode, but it's important to recognize these guys because of how good and talented they were and how hard they worked to then have a career plagued with injuries. It was sad. So that is my starting 5 of NBA players who would have been great but weren't. The biggest what if they never got injured players in NBA history. So aside from that, the main event for this episode, ladies and gentlemen, it is race week. Formula One is back. We are back after 3 months. It's been a long 3 months without Formula One. You know me, I love my Formula One. But we're back, and it's going to be the same thing as last season because that's just how Formula One is these days. Max Verstappen is going to win every single race probably again. No, I'm kidding. Okay, I'm going to take this seriously. These are my Formula One predictions for 2024. Okay? I've already watched Drive to Survive. It was mid as hell. I watched it last Friday. You know, they're getting worse by the year. Unfortunately for Drive to Survive, you can't top 2021. So they're never going to have a good season, you know, unless 2021 drama happens again. But Michael Massey's nowhere to be seen in the F1 paddock, so probably won't happen again. But yeah, man, we're back after 3 months. And here's some things to know about this next season. What was it that I wanted to... I had some of them written down. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, yeah, so Sauber, Alfa Romeo, are now Sauber Kick, and they're green. They were red, they're green now. Okay, the car looks very mid again, but that happened. Okay, they're green. Kick, the streaming app, have taken over that team, along with Stake, and they are now Kick Sauber and have a bright green car, and uniforms and so. Japan is now in April, so we are always used to Japan being at the end next to Singapore in the calendar. It is now in April. China is back on the calendar, and we have six sprint races because China's back. We had 5 last season, now it's 6. We have China, Qatar, Austria, Austin, Brazil, and what is Miami. Miami is the 6th one. So the six sprints in the 2024 season. And for the first time in Formula One history, there are no new drivers this season. It's the same lineups as 2023. Exact same driver lineups, which is mad. You know, I definitely didn't expect that. But speaking of same driver lineups, and the most surprising one we have seen, Logan Sargent is still on the grid, and I'm probably going to get a lot of stick for this, but I'll start my predictions off with my most improved driver this season, and I think it will be Logan Sargent. You know, he finished, I think, dead last season. He didn't get 0 points, but you know, he did finish dead last. But I do think he's going to improve. I seriously do. I think he's going to be most improved. I don't know. Something tells me I have a good feeling about Williams this season. But yeah, first prediction: most improved driver Logan Sargent. I'll just get into the main ones. Drivers' Championship, Max Verstappen. I think Max is just Red Bull's car is a spaceship. It's crazy, mate. It's ridiculous. I don't see how anyone can come close to them. But hey, I've been wrong before. So Max Verstappen to win the World Drivers' Championship and Red Bull to win the World Constructors' Championship. I do think Sergio Perez, this is his last year in Formula One. And, you know, speaking of no new drivers, I think next season we are going to see a crazy driver market. We've already seen Hamilton going to Ferrari. You know, he's behind me up there. I'm a huge Lewis Hamilton fan. But he's going to Ferrari for 2025, which means Carlos Sainz as well as a seat, and there are a lot of contracts up at the end of 2024. So don't be surprised to see a lot of silly season throughout this season. But yeah, WDC, Max Verstappen, WCC, Red Bull. And then I'm not even going to do an order of top 10 because I'm not even joking. Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston Martin, and McLaren could all easily be second place. And I have no idea what the order is going to be for those 4 teams. McLaren were raging at the end of last season. Mercedes are on demon time now. Aston Martin, Lawrence Stroll looked like a villain in Drive Survive. Like he's got some crazy plan up his sleeve. Ferrari somehow always end up getting a result, even though they blow up the car every few races, or mess up a pit stop, or mess up a strategy. You know, like there's so much potential, and then Alpine are somehow clawing it back. You know, Williams look like they have potential. You know, like there's so much on the rise in Formula One. So I think Red Bull will retain, but second place is up in the air between those 4 teams, man. I really do think so. Racing Bulls, new team. Okay, not a new team, but AlphaTauri are now called Racing Bulls. Okay, new colors, new race suits, new name, new sponsors. And I actually think it looks better than AlphaTauri for some reason. I don't know. I just think it looks more like Red Bull because they are Red Bull's junior team. You know, after all, it actually reminds me a bit of the old Toro Rosso. So Toro Rosso then became AlphaTauri. Now AlphaTauri has become Racing Bulls. So that's my predictions and new news on Formula One. I think the most exciting race is going. Oh, I don't know, man. There's so many tracks now that could, you know, give us surprises. I'm gonna go on a limb, okay, and say I was gonna say Silverstone, but everyone says Silverstone. I'm gonna say Brazil. I think Brazil is normally an exciting race, but I think this is gonna be a good one because it's near the end of the season, as per, and it's gonna be heated, and I think Brazil is gonna be the most exciting race of the season. Um, and most surprising result, I think, I'm not even joking, I think that Daniel Ricciardo will get a podium this season. Well, okay, you'll just leave me alone, okay? Don't come at me. But Daniel Ricciardo, I think he's going to get a podium this season. Like, look, again, in Drive Survive, they made him look like a hero. They're teeing him up for Red Bull. Let's be very real here. Like, let's not be naive. Sergio Perez is getting the axe. Daniel Ricciardo is coming in. He's going to get a podium this season, I feel like. And if it isn't him, then it's going to be Yuki. A Racing Bull is going to be on the podium this season. I'm telling you. Yuki hasn't got a podium in Formula 1. He's going to get on that podium. Or Daniel Ricciardo. But one of the two. And I imagine Daniel Ricciardo before Yuki. But those are all my predictions, man. Gunther Steiner's out. He's left Haas. Ayo Komatsu's now their team principal. But not much else to talk about. First race, Bahrain this weekend. I'm keen. I'm excited. So yeah, man. It's all for Formula One. And I said that was the main event, but I was lying. I was joking. The main event was the Carabao Cup final, and it wasn't much of a main event, was it? Okay, I'm lying. It was such a good game. That ball refused to go into the net. Liverpool versus Chelsea. What a game. I mean, Liverpool were robbed of that goal, that VAR check. But can we just appreciate... Look, I'm a United fan. I hate Liverpool and Chelsea, but especially Liverpool. But can we just talk about how embarrassing it is that Liverpool's academy beat Chelsea's first team? The highest worth of players. What's the word? The team that is worth the most in the Premier League, Chelsea, when it comes to signings, got beaten by an academy team. Those blokes went back to school yesterday. They had school the next day, and they won the Carabao Cup the day before. How do you lose to a bunch of academy graduates? It's a joke, man. Chelsea are in the bin, okay? In the bin. And I'm not even talking about United this episode. Chelsea are in the bin, and you know it, okay? Congrats to Liverpool on winning the Carabao Cup. If that's the only trophy they win this season, which it probably will be, just kidding, they're probably going to win the Premier League. Then it's cool that Klopp's won a trophy in his last season. And, this is what happened when United won it last season. Everyone was like, the quadruple's on. Now that Liverpool's won the Carabao Cup, the quadruple's on. Mate, they're not going to win the FA Cup. They're not going to win the Champions League. Like, they could probably win the Prem, but that's the double. And it's not even the real double. But anyway, congrats to Liverpool. I just thought it was like, it felt like I was watching like the World Cup or something, like how close it was, and there were just no goals. But yeah, man, congrats to Liverpool. Congrats to Klopp in his last year, that's still crazy news. But yeah, Chelsea, bit of a joke of a team, to be honest with you. And I'm not even having a go at Chelsea. It's just the team is in the bin, I spoke about it last episode that, literally, it's just come out in the last 20 minutes or so that Maurizio Pochettino has been given like an ultimatum that he has to win against Leeds if he wants to keep his job. And that's why I said in the last episode that Thomas Tuchel is leaving Bayern because they're trying to tee him up to come back to Chelsea, to have a Chelsea return. Why he would accept that, I don't know, but maybe he just loved the job. And I mean, I don't know why they got rid of him in the first place. And Chelsea fans would tell you that, you know, they would tell you that Poch was the wrong guy and that Tuchel shouldn't have left. But I don't know. This new owner they have has lost it. The signings they've made have done nothing, or they've been injured. So I don't know. You know, must be tough being a Chelsea fan. But yeah, that's about it, I think, for today. UFC, Derek Lewis versus, who's he fighting this weekend? I can't remember, but Derek Lewis is fighting this weekend on a UFC fight night. And then UFC 299 is either next week or the week after that, and we're gonna be right in there for UFC 299. But yeah, that's about it for today's episode. Bit of a longer episode. We're just closing in on an hour. So yeah, thanks guys. I appreciate you guys listening. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. Again, for the support. You know, it's been really nice seeing good feedback of from the pod. And we're going to keep it going. I need to remind you guys, if you do like the pod, please don't forget to rate it on Spotify. It does help with discoverability, whatever the hell that means, but it does help with it. And it helps me to get on, you know, suggested pages and stuff like that. So if you can rate the pod and you know, go across to the YouTube, if you miss some segments, you know, you can watch them on YouTube. The podcast episodes are on YouTube as well. There's clips on the Instagram, on the TikTok. The Instagram is Nescat Knows. The TikTok is my original Nescat, and YouTube and Twitter are both Nescat, respectively. So yeah, guys, if you have any questions, just feel free to DM me. I usually reply to DMs. If you don't, then comment in the comment section of my YouTube shorts, my Instagram videos, or DM me or email me, anything. It's open, you know, it's there. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Hope you guys have a blessed rest of your day or night, whenever you are watching it. And I will see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.